Well, again, welcome everybody to our group info session for the Tallahassee and Washington Internship Program. This will be specifically for the spring 2024 iteration, though some of the stuff that we talk about will be very relevant for those of you, for instance, that maybe you're still evaluating the possibility of graduating in the fall 2024 term. Well, I'll be making a few opening remarks here in a moment. Then we'll talk about some basic details of the internship. We're very lucky to be able to be joined by two different representatives from the UF Government Community Relations Office, Deputy Director of Federal Relations, Alex Grickstein, and then also Elena, who was an intern in Washington, D.C. this last semester. From the Tallahassee office, we'll be joined by Director of State Relations, Chris Emanuel, and Javier Kolacek, and also Zoe Gollum, who were interns in Tallahassee. Allow me just to start by framing these internships. The UF Bob Graham Center is a nonpartisan academic unit on campus charged with public service, civil discourse. We have public programs, student groups. We believe in pursuing public service and preparing students for public service. Our former governor, who the UF Bob Graham Center is named after, really made a name for himself by having a series of work-a-days throughout his campaign and then his governorship and senatorship, where he would experience the work of everyday Floridians. And during that, it gave him a real passion for learning by doing. And so we really appreciate these internship programs because it gives students a chance to get into compelling situations, government offices, et cetera, and learn by doing. We believe that that's a key part of your academic, your professional development. We love that it opens up doors, that it gives you new possibilities. And we appreciate having, especially our partners at the UF Government Community Relations Office, both in Washington and Tallahassee, on the ground, being able to kind of help guide your professional development in that moment. So thank you for being here. We're very excited to talk more about this internship. The UF Government Community, so these internships are a partnership between the UF Bob Graham Center and the UF Office of Federal Relations. We both kick into these internships. We support them financially, both through the housing and the cost of living scholarship. All in for, in most iterations, we're all in for a student in the nature of about $6,000. We share in that cost, our two offices do, because we find it to be a compelling opportunity for students. These internships, especially for the Washington internship that we'll start talking about with, it goes every spring, summer, and fall. So it runs every single semester, and most students maybe think of it doing an internship in the summer, but we want to encourage you to think about the spring and the fall as well. That is a key time for students to do internships. There are less students competing for internships. There's more possibility. We'll go over some program components of the internship. Again, this is you're getting placed in offices, congressional offices. This internship involves academic course credit. There's some professional development that we guide. It also involves policy and communication support. Let's drill down just a bit more on this. So again, these internships include an in-person 40-hour-a-week kind of placement in a congressional office that we help you to link up with or secure. These internships, for instance, this term, our interns are in the fall term in congressional offices, in each of the political parties across the political spectrum. So we have the opportunity that Florida has a big, diverse congressional delegation, and we have students placed in any number of those. The internship also includes internship credit. So we can help you carry a full course load or get close to a full course load with just this internship. Many students want maybe to reach a threshold to get Bright Futures Award. And so that we're able to get very close to doing that. We can get up to 0 to 9 just for your internship. The internship includes a cost of living scholarship, a housing scholarship. We cover your housing. We set up housing for you in Washington. It's very convenient. I think Javier said earlier, Javier, I think you let us know you were really surprised and happy to hear about the housing location. And in fact, Javier, if you want, do you want to unmute yourself for a moment and just kind of mention anything about the housing since you've moved in? And I'm going to try to admit a few more people in.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to clarify, this is housing for WIP, right?
Yes, right.
Okay, so let me just say that the Graham Center really did an amazing job with the housing situation, because I am right behind the Supreme Court, right? Like, no joke, it is like right behind me. So whenever I want to, I can visit the Supreme Court, I can take a walk around the Capitol, and I can see, and I'm really close by to the National Mall. So it's a really beautiful location, and it's very convenient, especially if you're working on Capitol Hill.
Oh, thanks, Javier. I think we've had a few more people join us. Thanks for joining us. We're just starting to kind of go through some of the basics about the Washington Internship. We've talked about placing you in a congressional office. We help you get ready. We help you review your resume. We help you prepare for the interviews. And we do interview practice, all helping you place in a congressional office. Again, I would encourage you, this is, we're specifically thinking about the spring internship cycle, roughly fitting within the academic calendar. So basically the, January to May. I would encourage you, if you haven't thought about doing an internship in a spring semester before, that's something to think about, because you'll have about 5 more weeks than you would in a summer. There'll be less interns in Washington, and a lot of times there's more responsibilities. One of the other things about the internship, again, thinking about the Washington internship, is the professional development support. So as I said, I help students. So we screen for students. We make offers, conditional offers to fund the students' housing and a cost of living scholarship, dependent upon them being able to land a congressional internship. Then we help connect them with those congressional offices, help them get ready for their interviews, help review their resumes. So far, every single student that we've accepted in the program the last few semesters have been able to place. Javier is one of our students, again, that's just placed. Elena's on the call as well. Elena, would you like to maybe just mention, how was it to interview with a congressional office? Did it go the way you thought? Anything that you'd like to comment about your placement?
Yeah, of course. So hi guys, my name's Elena. I was a WIP intern this past summer in the 2023 cohort, and I entered in Debbie Wasserman Schultz's office from Florida District 25. And yeah, I interviewed with them pretty early on in the process. And I think that, opened a lot of doors for me. It's always really good to, get in as soon as you can and make sure nobody is like stressed about placements and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, honestly, it was one of the most straightforward interviews I've ever had. Of course, Dr. Bird was super helpful with like prepping and stuff, knowing your member well, knowing what committees they're on, or at least having a general idea going into the interview really makes your interview stand out as well. I know when I've talked to my intern coordinator, that was something he always really noticed. It was like they did their background research. It wasn't just like a general blanket statement, that they found like somewhere they could use for any interview. It was very specific to the member of Congress. So that would be my one recommendation if you go into it and need to interview for an office.
Yeah. Thank you, Elena. Javier, anything that you would say about how your interview went? In both cases, we offered to, we reviewed the students, offered to fund, to cover housing, and then they're placing, they're also going through the process of interviewing with a congressional office. Javier, anything that you would say about that interview with the congressional office?
Yeah, so well, let me introduce myself first, guys. My name's Javier. I'm a fall WIP 2023 intern, and I'm interning with Congressman Bean's office. He represents Florida's 4th congressional district. And I just want to emphasize what Elena said. Knowing your member is key, right? Because it'll come up in the interview. Like, why did you choose to apply for this congressional offices? Because you'd be surprised how many people just randomly apply to offices hoping they get selected, right? So knowing your member well, but also remember that this is something I forget during the interview process. The person on the other side of the phone is a person too, right? So you always want to be personal in your interviews. Don't be afraid to show your personality, because that's honestly what they're looking for too. They want someone who can do the work efficiently and effectively, but someone who can be a part of the team as the semester goes by as well.
Yeah, great. Now, this is wonderful. I'm glad to have, as I said, several of our interns post last semester and this semester on the call. Again, this internship, the Washington Internship, is a team effort between the UF Bob Graham Center and the UF Office of Federal Relations. We both go into supporting the internship because we believe in its ability to be an opportunity for students to learn by doing. In a compelling context, a challenging context, where you'll have to take your professional development and your work ethic and your skills to the next level to really thrive in. And UF students, by the way, semester after semester, do wonderful. We have more offices reaching out to us asking for UF students because they say they get there before everybody else. They're very driven. They work hard, and they just distinguish themselves amongst the interns from all the different universities. We also support this, the University of Florida Bob Graham Center and the University of Florida Federal Relations team also support this because a student is partnering with us to tell the story of well-funded public education. You are serving as an ambassador, as a liaison for the University of Florida, for the UF Office of Federal Relations. You are helping us to connect to offices. You're helping us to be a present part of their plans of these congressional offices business. When they think of the University of Florida, they think of you. And we are extremely happy that you would help us represent, what we do here at the University of Florida in those offices. Again, we will help students. We will offer to fund students conditional upon them landing a congressional placement. All of the most recent iterations of our students have been able to do that with our support and coaching. So students will serve in congressional offices, but then also we'll have a student per se or more, but generally one student serve as an intern in the UF Office of Federal Relations itself. That's really nice because then they can attend meetings, hearings, do the work, help to interface with individuals that are interacting with the UF Office of Federal Relations. I think Alex is on the call. Alex, would you like to tune in and introduce yourself and then say anything that it's helpful maybe for people to hear about your office?
Thanks, Dr. Bird. Pleasure to see and meet everyone. Really appreciate you taking the time listening to the call today. A couple things come to mind. First, obviously great to see Elena did a tremendous job last semester. Wasserman Schultz was very happy with your experience, and congrats again. Looking forward to meeting you, Javier, in our cohort coming this semester. I can't stress enough, the spring semester is probably one of the best semesters to intern in Washington. Couple things, it's super busy. It really follows the budget process, which heats up every year in the spring. So there's a lot going on in Washington. It's also just a beautiful time of year. You have the cherry blossoms, really nice weather. I will warn all the Floridians on this call that it is cold, the first month or so. So be ready for that. But again, you're not getting with the huge humid heat in the summer. And I think it is a really great experience because there's not a ton of people in Washington, students-wise, versus summer. There's just thousands of students, right? So you'll get more responsibilities. A couple things I would say just for when you're thinking about interviewing different types of placements. I know many students, they might not know what their political beliefs are, and that's perfectly fine. You could be middle of the road, you can be truly an independent, you haven't kind of figured it out. This is a good opportunity to figure out where you stand. And again, you don't have to be on one side forever, but we want to make sure when we place you, you're in an office that you feel comfortable in, that you share a lot of the same beliefs. Of course, you're not going to agree on every issue underneath the sun for your member of Congress, but you want to have a pretty good standing and understanding of what they're pushing. I'd say if you ever want to work in Washington, or if you want to work on Capitol Hill, if you want to work for a nonprofit, if you want to work for a federal agency, really anything underneath the sun, this is such a great opportunity, great experience to kind of get your foot in the door. It's almost, it's a requirement to a certain extent, especially if you want to work in Capitol Hill. They're going to want to see that internship first. Same thing if you want to work for a lobby shop, a nonprofit association. They really want to see actual practical internship experiences before you get your first time job. Couple other things I would say, I'm not going to try to tell you that it's the most glamorous position. You're not going to be writing legislation. You're not going to be advising a congressperson on what bills and how to vote, but it is a great way to see up close how our legislative process works. It is very different than any class you're going to take on campus. It is truly amazing how much work interns do and the junior staff on advising a member of Congress. You got to think most of the staff in a congressional office are in their early 20s. And so they're just like you, right? They're just fresh out of college. And, they really want to hear your experience. And so it's a great way to really understand the pace of Capitol Hill, how Congress operates, and really up close and personal, what public service looks like. Obviously, the main mantra of the Graham Center. Again, we are the government relations office here in DC. We're right next to the Capitol building. It's 3 people in our office. Myself, our AVP Sarah Mathias, and then a federal relations associate. And so we are the lobbyists, the eyes and ears for the university here in Washington. And so what does that entail? That's working with the congressional delegation, working with, Congressman Wasserman Schultz's office a lot, Congressman Aaron Bean's office a lot. Then it's also working with all the National Higher Ed Association, different business groups, and of course, the federal agencies, the Department of Education, the White House. And we're constantly having a stream of people come to campus. Not surprising. You have students coming visit, pitching, working to make college more affordable. And then it's our faculty members, they have potentially a research grant that they want to pitch. And so we're doing a lot of that support and help for all those units on campus. Again, I think it's a great experience in Washington. It's a beautiful city. It's a big city, but it's not too big. Like, you're not going to get lost in it. So again, happy to answer questions at a later date, but really feel that it is a great experience. If you do want to work in Washington at some point, it's almost as a necessity to do that internship first. So thanks, Dr. Bird.
Alex, one thing that we've been doing in the recent semesters is we've had an increasing number of students from maybe different majors. So not just political science students. And we're thankful for every single political science student, international studies student, on the call. But we've started to place more students from agriculture, from CALS, from other departments, including engineering. And so one thing that, sometimes these students are thinking about is, well, why would I do maybe this internship when, I'm really was thinking about more of an industry-based internship, let's say with Google or with some company. And one thing that I pitch to them is that a lot of these offices or these companies that you're thinking about have government relation arms. And the possibility of, let's say, of an engineering student or a student from some other field to have both a public service internship with maybe more a traditional industry internship is a compelling mix. Anything about kind of the government relations for even maybe a student that really perceives that they're going to engage in this public service, but potentially go into the private sector? Anything that you would say about that?
Yeah, I mean, so government relations, when you think of the lobbyist, you think of either, professional association or society or obviously, some sort of business, right? Higher ed is our business. If it's, maybe a defense contractor like Boeing or something, they're all going to want someone that understands government, right? They're doing government relations, relating to the government. So, you first need to have that experience, either if it is in a federal agency or a Capitol Hill office. So I think it is really a great experience, even if you don't feel like you're going to want to be a public servant and a congressional staffer forever. It gets you up close and personal, our legislative process. And the same thing, depending on maybe the issue that you're really passionate about. Maybe you're passionate about, the climate or healthcare or transportation. Again, it is a great opportunity. Hopefully, let's say you're really passionate about public health. Maybe you try to intern for a member that sits on the health committee. He or she has a lot of oversight of those issues. Same thing if it's transportation, really trying to find a member that sits on the transportation committee, working on transportation policy. So yes, it is great if you do want to have a job working as a public servant, as a Capitol Hill staffer, but I think it is also a great opportunity if you want to branch out into a specific field, especially in the private sector.
Oh, thanks. Elena, we're going to have a moment for kind of all the students to kind of field questions, but for yourself as someone with your major, would you be okay if you maybe shared kind of part of your motivations for going to Washington last semester?
Yeah, of course, of course. So I am a microbiology and cell science major from CALS here at UF. And yeah, going into it, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit scared, especially, just going in with a lot of political science majors. But even in our cohort as well, there was a good amount of major diversity, like Dr. Bird was saying. But that being said, once I got into my office, even talking to the political science majors, they were like, we don't really know what's going on either. It's a new environment for everyone. And I think, going in with that mindset and going in with the mindset that you just want to learn and you want to do stuff the way the office is doing it already. And you're willing to adapt and adjust to the way they are doing it. And maybe, you have suggestions and that type of thing, but not necessarily you're there to change the status quo or anything. So I think, going into it with an open mind is a really big thing. They really appreciate you coming from a different background as well and bringing a new perspective. I know I very quickly got dinged as the person who handled any STEM related thing, any briefing that we had to go to that was STEM, or my passion is public health. So any health related thing, I immediately got past those assignments as well. So another thing, whether you're, a political science major with, those aspirations or a different major, I would definitely, highlight what you're interested in at the beginning of your internship, because for the most part, they will take that into account, and your office will try to give you assignments that focus on those things, especially within the intern cohort as well. You can sort of figure out what your dynamic is and figure out how to divvy up those assignments. But yeah, I had a great time, even though, I didn't really know what it was going to be helpful for. It ended up being, the most beneficial experience that I've got out of UF so far. The networking is amazing. You can meet people on Hill, off Hill, like Alex said, in different agencies and so many different avenues in terms of public health and healthcare for my interest specifically. But yeah, definitely recommend, no matter what background you come from.
Oh, great. Thank you both. So we'll have a time where we'll have a chance for you to ask questions. Let's move forward and just maybe do a brief overview of the Tallahassee Internship Program, and then also hear from Director Chris Emanuel. And how Javier, you and both Zoe can speak to that, because Javier has done both our Tallahassee and now our Washington Internship Program. So we're talking about the Tallahassee Internship Program, which the application cycle is also open for right now. We're particularly wanting to make sure we have enough applicants for the Tallahassee internship. Generally, for Tallahassee, we would really like to send, maybe between 10 to 15 students to Tallahassee. This is, again, a partnership between the UF Bob Graham Center and the UF Office of Government Community Relations, their Tallahassee office. The Tallahassee Internship Program includes an internship in the spring semesters during the legislative session. Very similar components. The Tallahassee Internship Program involves an internship, academic credit. So for that internship, so we can assign you often, 0 to 9. We can figure out a way for your credit load to be up for what you might need for bright futures or so forth, just through the internship. It involves professional development, networking, very similar to the Washington Internship Program. Things that you can learn more about, things like policy and communication projects and so forth for the Tallahassee internship. This is a 40-hour-a-week internship. So both of these internships are a robust work experience. When I ask students each semester, what's the most surprising thing about your internship, they often say just the 9 to 5 kind of experience. It begins in January and includes in March this legislative term. Florida has, 2 legislative type of terms, sometimes lasting a little longer. This is a short term for so this experience would be a 60-day term rather than the traditional 120-day like term. The Tallahassee Internship Program will involve an optional Florida politics class that you'll be able to take. It'll be asynchronous. That was required. We've made that optional. It will also include, of course, the Tallahassee internship, the actual internship that we can award you, again, a robust number of credits for just through the internship. We, again, line up your housing. We've lined up furnished housing for you through our housing partners. We provide a cost of living scholarship. It involves, like the Washington Internship Program, ongoing professional development. We help to link you up with your state rep offices that you would potentially be interning in. Well, interesting thing that we're going to be doing with the Tallahassee internship is that Director Chris is going to be, looks like maybe teaching a 1-credit class that will coincide with our speaker series. Our speaker series for our Tallahassee interns is a required, weekly on Friday. Generally, we do it maybe mid-morning, or we might do it at a different time. Series of speakers that we have, and we're probably going to do, the office there, the Tallahassee the Tallahassee Office of the Government Community Relations is likely going to do a companion type of course where you do readings and do discussions in the hour after that class. Again, this is a 60-day legislative term. It's a fast-paced environment. There's committee meetings going on throughout the week. It's a great networking opportunity. It's a great way to meet other Gators. It's a great way to meet people across the state. There will be programming that you'll help with, like Gator Day. You'll be, again, key ambassadors, liaisons for the University of Florida, helping to make a case for, the preeminent state institution in Tallahassee. You are, like we said before, you are our best example of work. And we really want to consider this as a partnership where you're helping us to tell the story of UF. You're helping to further the mission of UF Government Community Relations and building strong strong relationships with all of our political partners. Well, allow me to turn it over to Director Chris Emanuel, if you will. Would you like to maybe introduce yourself and share anything about your office?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bird. This has been a fantastic conversation. It's also great to see so many familiar faces from folks that have spent some time up in Tallahassee as Bob Graham interns. My name is Chris. I run our Tallahassee office. I work as kind of the Tallahassee equivalent of what Alex does up in DC. So what I'd like to do is kind of sell you on the idea that you should consider spending a little bit of time in Tallahassee to figure out how the state government works. The first part of it is recognizing that all governments are kind of different, but all of them impact your lives in different ways. Policy making gets done at the local level and special districts. It, of course, gets done at the federal level. And as if you guys have read the news recently, some of it also gets done at the state level. And these are concurrent processes that interact with each other. So a lot of times they are responding or adding to something that's happened at a different level of government. If you're interested in a range of different topics, it's probably worth doing some analysis to figure out what level of government that most impacts. Let me tell you the stuff that Tallahassee will do during the 60 days or 9 weeks that you would be up here. The state government will spend roughly $117 billion. They will fund the entirety of Florida's healthcare system. They will fund in the tens of billions of dollars our transportation and environmental system. They will personally hand UF somewhere in the ballpark of $750 million to operate and another $250 million for new programs. They will go through and hand the K-12 system somewhere in the ballpark of $28 to $29 billion. They will contemplate a tax package that'll cost between $500 million and $5 billion. And then they will pass somewhere in the ballpark of 270 bills within 60 days. So if that sounds like something that you would be mildly interested in, it is a caffeine-fueled rush for 9 weeks, mostly Monday through Thursday. We'll put you in offices that are hopefully strong gators, that are people that you're interested in, but also more interested in topic areas. If you really love healthcare, we're probably going to point you in a different direction than if you really love environmental policy. And what you'll find is that regardless of party affiliation, different offices will specialize. And we're really going to try to put you in an office that is consistent with what you're interested in and consistent with your specialty. But as any of the interns that have been up here in Tallahassee can tell you, it is not unusual for one member of the House or Senate to run from a healthcare committee to an education committee to an important environmental vote and then run back to talk about pensions. It is a dynamic day. The biggest thing and the biggest advantage, and this is not exclusive to Tallahassee, you'd get this in the federal offices as well, is that really smart people will come to your office every single day and try to explain their expertise as narrowly and as easily as possible. It is absolutely mainlining information from the best of the best as people try to argue and advocate for policy changes or policy status quos in a very high-paced environment. I'm very excited that we're also going to do some coursework, talk a little bit about Florida politics and policy. For the interns that were here last year, I'm hoping to reach out to each one of you and get a little bit of an idea of what that could look like. And with that, I'd love to end this rant and see if anybody, or I guess, Kevin, should we do questions now or questions later?
Yeah, well, I think Zoe's on the call. Zoe is also one of our Tallahassee Internship Program. Zoe, anything that you would like to share about just being in Tallahassee? Zoe was placed specifically with the UF Office of Government Community Relations, their Tallahassee branch. She served in that office, helping to track all the events of the state for that office, helping to further that office's work. Zoe, would you like to say anything about your experience in Tallahassee?
Of course. So, hi everyone. My name's Zoe. I'm currently a senior double majoring in history and international studies. And like Dr. Bird and Chris Emmanuel were saying just a moment ago, I was interning in the UF Office of Government and Community Relations at the state level. So my internship looked a little unique compared to some of the other ones in that rather than interning in the legislature, I kind of was more so on the policy side. I really enjoyed my internship because I got to work at the intersection of advocacy and policy and education. So while advocating for the university at the state level, I also got to learn all about some of the behind the scenes of all the really cool things that UF is doing and involved in, and how the state impacts school operations and vice versa. I also had a really good experience with my internship, and that I got to engage in a lot of really unique professional development and networking opportunities that allowed me to have a really educational experience in a way that I never could have gained in the classroom. So being able to gain that work experience while also learning all about the school and the ins and outs of the legislative process was very valuable.
Kind of a side benefit, in addition, the Tallahassee internship, the Washington internship can be a great kind of opportunity that then helps open up additional opportunities. We have a string now this semester. We've placed our second of two White House interns, and last semester we had two, and the semester before that, and all five of our White House interns up to now have been former Tallahassee Internship Program students. So that's quite a string. Well, let's make sure we have some time for Q&A, and I'd like to maybe open it up. Any questions for Alex or Chris, just to start with here for those offices? It's very unique for us to have a UF office on the ground in Washington, in Tallahassee, that can serve as a point of contact, a point trying to help facilitate your professional development, help link you up with professional networks. Any questions for the UF Office of Federal Relations or the UF Office of the Government Community Relations Tallahassee office for anybody on the call?
Kevin, while people are thinking, I see one in the chat that's a pretty
great.
good one that is asking, would this prepare you for a career in lobbying or a kind of a career in public advocacy? I would say that that's probably the most obvious thing that this touches on is public policy and public advocacy. One of the areas that's probably the most important when you are going into this kind of advocacy is recognizing what the other people on the other side of the table are looking for, what's helpful for them, what's not, where in the process it is. And this is, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but this is how policy gets made. And if you're trying to influence policy, that's a useful thing to know. This also can carry over for anybody that receives public funding at any portion of their business model. Alex brought up defense contractors. If you don't really understand how defense contractors make money, it's through federal government contracts. So an understanding of how that works. Same thing with medicine and business models there. Environmental policy is largely set. So I'd say anything that's public facing or public advocacy is right on target.
Oh, great. Just while we're talking about that, I do see someone has asked, will this, I think they might have jumped off the call for a class, but will this hinder your degree progress? Well, that's where if you'll kind of dialogue with me, there's often ways that we can figure out that, an experience like this won't have to hinder your degree progress. I will say you do want to think about your undergraduate career like a body of work, and you want to make sure and fit within that body of work things that are deeply meaningful and impactful to set you up for what's next. And so rather than thinking about maybe just finishing early or kind of finishing within a very hardened structure of a timeline, we want to make sure that whatever is the stuff that we put in that body of work is helping you. And so multiple internships or special interns like this will invariably help you land better jobs or more offers. And over and over, we've seen that it's well worth any adjustments we have to make in your schedule. But related to your offices, anything else, Alex, that you would like to say? What's your office looking for with someone that you're really going in to help us fund, to help us select? Alex, what type of student are you looking for?
I think a go-getter, someone that's not shy. I think in DC, you have to get the most out of an internship, you have to be able to network and meet people, right? And if you're gonna sit in your office, in our office or the congressional office, do great work, put out great products, good reports, do a lot of great research. That's very helpful. The office will really appreciate that. You're not getting everything you can out of this internship. To really get the most out of the internship, it is getting out, meeting people. We have such an extensive network of alums here in DC, almost 14,000. try to meet people, right? Help your career down the road. I think another thing that I really look for is short and concise. In most, classes that you're going to take on campus, it's going to be writing, your own words, your own thoughts, your own opinion, doing a lot of research, page after page. Here in DC, and I would say the same thing probably in Tallahassee, it's very different. Often you're writing in the voice of someone else, right? Your representative or senator, and it needs to be short and concise. Time is of the essence. Everything is super quick here, and if you can't get your point across in 1 to 2 pages, you're going to lose people pretty quickly. So I think that's a really important skill and something to learn too. So those are a couple of things that come to mind that I think are super helpful.
I see we had a question that what does a typical day look like? Elena, or would you like to maybe field that? What did for you and in Washington, what did a typical day look like?
Typically, depending on we were in session, out of session, our hours would vary a little bit. But generally we would get there around 9 a.m. And, do a lot of the typical intern tasks in the morning. So that would be going through the email and going through the mail and like getting the office set up as everybody else is sort of coming in and everything. And then we will sort of start doing our actual assignments for the day. So this could be memos, all different types of things, background research on certain policy things for different staffers that will talk to you about certain things that they just genuinely won't have time to research, but they will want, like Alex was saying, a short and concise summary of the most, like the newest research out there and maybe what other Congress people have commented on for those policy areas and things. And then, that would sort of be a majority of the day. And then you could get called out to go to a briefing. You could get called out to run something like Debbie so my congresswoman was on appropriations. So like I had to run stuff to appropriations all the time. So it's definitely a chaotic time, but it's super fun with a lot of coffee breaks in between. But yeah, definitely never too slow. But super, super exciting and a lot of very valuable, personal things that I gained a lot. My writing got way better. My ability just to summarize stuff got so much better. So yeah, happy to answer any more questions if anybody has any more.
Zoe, for you, Zoe again was in a bit of a unique situation in that she was one of the students we tasked with really helping the Tallahassee office, follow, the bevy of activity during the legislative session. Zoe, what did a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, so one thing I really loved about my internship placement is that every day was kind of different. So pertaining to legislation particularly, once a lot of legislation started coming out, when session started, a lot of my days would look like watching either committee meetings or session meetings to get more information about some of the background on legislation that was being passed. We also kept track of bill texts as they were being drafted, to kind of see how the language changed pertaining to the school, and also keeping an eye out on legislation and on the news in general to see any mentions of the University of Florida particularly and anything that might be impacting the school. Outside of legislation particularly, I was also really involved in helping plan our annual Gator Day at the Capitol, which is US Day of Advocacy, which was also really fun. So that would range from helping plan out Gator Day decorations to kind of coordinating with different parts of the school that would be coming to visit Tallahassee on Gator Day and making sure that everything ran smoothly. So yeah, every day kind of looked really different, but I got to engage in a wide array of activities, and it was really enlightening to learn about everything that the school does, as well as kind of seeing the ins and outs of how the legislative process works at the state level.
Thanks, Zoe. Let me just address a few of the questions. So the Washington Internship Program are for congressional placements. We do at times have people that land other types of placements that we can invite into the program as an affiliate or in some other capacity. But for the Washington Internship Program, we are concentrating on students who are helping us establish relationships with congressional offices. And by the way, UF interns have been doing such a great job that we have more and more offices reaching out to us asking for our interns or saying, we've heard how amazingly the UF interns work. We want one of those interns. And so that's a really exciting thing. Again, if you land some other type of internship on your own, you're very welcome to reach out to us if we need to help register for course credit. But we're really at this point really focusing and honing in on our congressional placements. Several people have asked, for Washington in particular, we're really generally looking at juniors and seniors. Now, that's not to say if there's some exceptional sophomore that has a kind of a unique experience that we might also consider. For instance, we've had an engineering student that we really wanted to make sure in place in Washington that wasn't a junior and senior that we selected. For freshmen, I would encourage you to apply. But also think about, that you are learning about things now. Let's say that for Tallahassee, we have often maybe considered exceptional sophomores with a bit more, we have a bit more bandwidth because of the number that we place and a couple of other factors, that we might consider exceptional sophomores. So let's say if you're a freshman at this current point, feel free, please do apply. We can give you feedback, but also you're learning about things that you could prepare for yourself in the future semesters. I think maybe, Javier, did you say that you might have something to say for yourself and how you were able to structure your classes so that this did not impede or delay your graduation?
Yeah, so I know that, with these internships being in the spring semester, there might be some concerns with getting the classes you would need in order to graduate on time. So I want to let you guys know that when Dr. Bird said that they would work with you to make sure that you will graduate on time, you will meet your course credits, that he was completely correct in that. I'm a political science student, which political science department doesn't offer any online courses, but there are workarounds and there are ways that the courses you take, particularly through the Tallahassee Internship Program, can count for political science credit, right? So just trust me when I say this, and trust Dr. Bird when he says it. The Graham Center will work with you to make sure that you are meeting those requirements. So just don't let the fact that these internships are in the spring impede or doubt your ability to do so, right?
Oh, this is great. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Other questions? I wanted to make sure and load the app. One of the questions was about the application, so I wanted to load that up in the chat. Or I guess, Zoe, I should have asked you if you don't mind loading the internship page up into the chat. If or I can do it, either one. Other questions people have? I'd like to make sure that we have time for questions.
I had a question for how the program relates to an engineering major's class load and their time of graduation.
Okay, so great. Gabriel, is that you? Could you tell me which engineering program you're in?
I'm a computer engineer.
Nice, CE. Well, great. I have a lot of good friends in that department, including Dr. Blanchard, your director. So I would say that would probably be something that Dr. Blanchard and myself and you could jump on a call, or one of your advisors. I do believe that you've gotten a recent, maybe there's been a new advisor that you've gotten. And we would look through your curriculum and kind of plan out how that could happen. For our other, we didn't have a CE, but we had a CSE, so a computer science engineering student that we accepted into the program. And what we did was just looked at their curriculum and kind of showed what they could accomplish, let's say, certain other terms that made room for this internship and didn't impede. Of course, remembering for an engineering student, the average time that you spend here will be 5 years. And one of the reasons is more than one internship. So an internship like this plus an industry-based internship will result in better job offers and more offers at a higher rate. So Gabriel, we would follow up with you and an advisor from your department on that.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay, so just to kind of do a bit of an overview, the application for the spring 2024 is open now. It will close September 10th. We currently have a number of applicants. We need some more applicants. So we need the people on this call to apply, especially for the Tallahassee Internship Program. We need a lot of people to apply. Have we had finance majors in the past? Absolutely. Some of our, several of our highest performing students have been from Warrington. So please do consider applying. The applications will close this September 10th. For the next week or two after that, we'll evaluate our pool of applicants. We'll extend interviews by the end of September, sometime in that kind of general ballpark area. We hope to have decisions finalized in October, if all goes as planned, so that you would have maybe an interview late September and have, if you are part of that group, and have a, a conditional offer based on placement, dependent on placement, by October. I will say that we've had a lot of people that have applied for this in the past, and just because maybe it was a summer and we had a lot more applicants that term, maybe they weren't a part of the small number of students we had matching offices for. But I would just encourage you, we've had students that have applied again, and then they've been at the top of our list because the nature of the Florida delegation, or who we're partnering with in Tallahassee, has adjusted with elections and so forth, and then we're able to place those students in a real office that correlates to their interests. So a lot of this is about timing and placement. So if you, let's say, applied and you don't hear that you're accepted, that's not a bad thing. It just means that maybe it's an alignment that we're still working to achieve. Other questions? You're very welcome to contact me if you have, maybe one-off type, situations. I would say if it's something that you feel comfortable mentioning here, you're also able to just ask the question here, and I can talk through it just in case it applies to someone else. But if you'd like to just email me offline, you're very welcome to do that. Zoe, do you think that we've any other things that you've seen that that we should respond to?
I responded to a couple messages privately. I'll check real quick, see if they're pertaining to anyone else. Some people ask questions about housing. Housing is provided and taken care of. You don't have to find your own housing. It's covered by the center.
Well, maybe we should mention, Zoe, just so that we can support as many students as possible, so that we can kind of spread this experience. Generally, UF often sends the most students to Tallahassee of any other state university system. We are also, generally supporting the most students in Washington than any other university in the state. We do have shared rooming. So in Washington, we have quad style rooming, where there's a 4-tour room in bunk bed fashion with your own bathroom. That can be the most. Maybe if it's not that, it might be a double. In Tallahassee, it's generally more like a double rooming type situation in a furnished room with your own bathroom. Everyone would like to maybe have their own room. I would just say, for the sake of us kind of sending as many students, and also for your own, professional development skills, communication skills, problem solving skills, that experience can be meaningful as well. Zoe, or anyone else, questions?
One more question I saw in the chat is, what things do the scholarships not cover, and what are students expected to pay ourselves?
Yes. Well, okay, so we line up your housing and pay for your housing. And then there's a cost of living scholarship let's say in the spring term for Washington, it'd be $2,000. And so you pay for your own flight. Out of that $2,000, we encourage you to, consider maybe a Metro Pass, whether you do it monthly or for longer. We'd encourage you to try not to eat out every night. Oftentimes there's food events that you can find. You would pay for kind of incidental personal items too. I will say with that, students will often take up to a certain threshold of classes to receive any scholarships or Bright Futures awards that they need. And when I say classes, I mean credit through the internship, or maybe a couple of maybe less intense classes. So you can get up to a threshold so that you're still getting your scholarship or aid stipend. For Tallahassee, because this is a late legislative term, we would cover housing. There'd be a cost of living scholarship, which wouldn't be quite, $2,000. It'd be a bit less than that. But then again, you can also get up to your, we can help you get up to, more of a part-time or full-time credit-bearing load through an academic registration to help kick in those funds. Can international students apply? That's a great question. Yes, international students can apply. I will say that in general, the offices really appreciate people that are in their district who are kind of, have registered to vote and are voting. That's kind of a very common refrain that we hear from them. That's something they appreciate, something they look for. But, I would just mention in your application that you're an international student, and we would welcome that application along with it. It might just be that the kind of the group of students that we have for that term makes that possible, or so forth. Well, I'd just like to say again, thank you. I can stay online for a few more minutes, but thank you for this time. Javier, Zoe, Elena, thank you. Chris, Alex, if you're still on the line, thank you. Again, applications close September 10th. We're really hoping that a number of you apply, and my very best to you.